This summer, Johnsonville reminds everyone to get their sausage family together to enjoy some plump, juicy brats around the grill. Because at Johnsonville, we don't make sausage, we make family and sausage.
National League Central rivals go head-to-head this weekend when the Pirates face the Cubs at Wrigley.
Swing and a miss, he struck him out.
The pregame at 3 Eastern, first pitch at 4, Saturday on ESPN Radio and the new ESPN app. This is the Best of Mike and Mike podcast on ESPNRadio.com. The Best of Mike and Mike.
Hey, it's Golic. Thanks for checking out the Best of Mike and Mike podcast. Here's what we got for you from Tuesday. Duke wins their 5th national championship. We're going to recap the game. Some questionable post-game comments from Wisconsin and Coach K's legacy with Jay Bilas, Dick Vitale, and Dan Dakich. Plus, Flo Rida in studio.
The Best of Mike and Mike.
Congratulations, Coach K. Congratulations to the Duke Blue Devils, champions once again of the college basketball world. And we are back and better than ever. Mike and Mike presented by Progressive Insurance. Jay Bilas will join us live in a half hour on his way to the airport at Indy, as will everybody else on the Subway Fresh Take Hotline. Will be jam-packed all morning long. The music by Flo Rida, because he'll be in our studio this morning. Dan Dakich, Dickie V, Seth Greenberg, and many, many more this morning. Plus, we'll work on getting a Coach K and some of the champion Blue Devils. Golic is distraught because a Wisconsin win would have meant a fortune of money for the Golic family, something they don't have enough of.
Yeah. Me personally, I just wanted to see a good game. But if Wisconsin won, the wife would have won a pool. Mike would have been in third. So you know what it's about. I mean, we know what it's all about.
Yeah, right. At the end of the day, we understand.
Yeah. So even though I wasn't going to win it, listen, I get something off the top of everything that comes into the household. So I was gonna get a little taste of that, but I got nothing. Yeah.
All the calls on the Westwood One NCAA Radio Network, and in the end, Duke wins it with defense and freshmen. We'll get to the defense in a minute, but let's start with the freshmen. It was 4 seniors against 4 freshmen last night in the championship game, and here's how dumb I am. I said the difference in the game would be Wisconsin's experience, that their seniors would handle the pressure of the big moments better, and we had statistics going into the game last night that in clutch time, which they played more of this year than many other teams that were at this level, particularly than Kentucky, that they were practically unbeatable. Last night they were beaten by freshmen Winslow, Okafor, Jones, and where did he come from? Grayson Allen scored 60 of Duke's 68 points last night, including all 37 of their points in the second half. Meanwhile, Wisconsin's 4 seniors scored 28 points and shot 37% from the floor. There are a lot of reasons why Duke won this game. There are a lot of little things to nitpick about this game, as you can with any college game these days. There were some moments there that left you scratching your head, officiating stuff, some mistakes that were made. But in the end, I mean, Duke was a very good team, and they played very well.
Yeah, and listen, we'll cover all the angles of it, but let's just look at the game and what went on. The expectation of what Okafor, Winslow, and Tyus Jones, the 3 of those 4 freshmen, would do. That was the expectation because they had been the stars of that team. They had, and especially Winslow, we talked about how his stock had risen through the tournament. Okafor, we know, got into foul trouble. So here comes Grayson Allen. And if you're saying who, that's what a lot of people were saying. He's a guy that during the season averaged 9 minutes a game and 4 points. He was actually, of all these freshmen, the first to commit to Duke. He was the first commit of this class. He was in the, McDonald's All-American game, won the slam dunk contest in that. That's how you knew of him. But he certainly was in the shadow of these other 3 freshmen. Well, he was called upon because of the situation. They played a lot more small ball last night because Okafor was on the bench for a decent amount of the game. And here comes this kid, like I said, 9 minutes and 4 points. He plays 21 minutes and gets 16 points. You always find that guy. We talked to you, as you said, the freshmen that we knew about, the senior stars on Wisconsin's team. If you knew about the main guys, in Wisconsin's side of that game, Kaminsky was fantastic, but you look for Sam Decker next, but it was Nigel Hayes that was hitting the shots. You wonder who that guy's going to be. And then you found out. You found out it was Grayson Allen who could take it to the hoop, was putting the ball in, was getting to the line, while Tyus Jones was coming off screens and nobody felt the need to come out on him. I know Wisconsin doesn't play that way, but okay, then that's one of the ways you got beat. was Jones just knocking them down from the top of the key, whether a three-pointer or a two-pointer coming off the screens. It was they played well down the stretch. And all of a sudden, as you hear our analysts saying, and you watch the game, you see Wisconsin, which moves so well without the ball, all of a sudden is kind of dribbling all over the place and not moving as well at coming to the end of the game.
Yeah, here's the other thing that is worth pointing out, that basketball at its core is a somewhat simple game. Which is to say the team that has better players usually wins. When you watch Duke and Michigan State, I was amused watching some of the stuff on Twitter, and I get it. If I were a hardcore fan of one of these teams, I'd be complaining about the officials, because there were terrible calls in all of these games and everything else. But what I was saying after that game was, that night, the four best players on the floor were all wearing the same color jersey. Yeah. When that happens, that team's going to win the overwhelming majority of the time. Wisconsin has several very good players on their team, but Duke's players are better. They just have better players.
Well, Kaminsky had a game last night.
But start adding them up.
Yeah.
I mean, just start adding up how many good players Duke has and how many good players Wisconsin has.
The one to me that was missing from the outside is only buckets were set. By the way, Wisconsin had 11 second chance points in the first half. Was Decker. Decker couldn't hit the side of a barn from a jump shot range or a 3.
6 of 15 on the night, and it felt worse.
0 for 6 0 for 6 from three-point land. He was making putbacks or garbage around the rim. He couldn't hit a jumper. It was Nigel Hayes that was hitting some of the jumpers, but that was sorely missed. It was Kaminsky who was controlling that game. Koenig played a nice game for them as well, hitting some nice shots and driving the lane. Kaminsky was the man, though, without a doubt. But, some of the others just weren't there, and they were off their game. It's one of those things where is it a little of both? Did the moment get to them? Did Duke take them out of their moment, of what they normally do? You have to give Duke credit for what went on, and we'll get into some of the officiating. But at the end of the day, you got to give Duke credit for what they did. A game that with, 13 minutes to go, they were down 9, and you wondered, is Wisconsin going to start to pull away in this thing?
I thought they were.
I thought they were as well, had all the momentum in the world. And then 4 minutes ago, Tyus Jones hits a 3. Boom, Duke has the lead, and it turned out to be the lead for good. A couple questionable calls, forgetting foul calls.
Festival of and one.
Yeah. Forgetting even the foul calls, which are subjective. A couple of plays that were in black and white. You could see the refs missed the call. But still, give credit for Duke. They took it to Wisconsin at the end, and Wisconsin didn't have an answer.
Duke wins the title. That's what's trending now. Brought to you by 5 Hour Energy. New improved taste, 10 great flavors. Have you tried 5 Hour Energy shots lately? Again, the 4 freshmen, Winslow, Okafor, Tyus Jones, who had the huge night, and Grayson Allen, who was amazing coming off the bench, scoring 60 of the team's 68 points last night. So for a team with that many young kids to win it behind Coach K, excuse me. I guess you might as well change it to that.
That's exactly
right. Behind Coach K, remarkable.
I haven't loved the team any more than I've loved this team. And, we have 8 guys, and 4 of them are freshmen. For them to win 35 games and win the national title is incredible. When it's over, and I would have the best appreciation of that because I've been in this for 40 years. I'm the coach of that group that did this.
Listen, what's odd is he had the freshmen. We kept talking about Calipari and how he does the freshmen in Kentucky, but this year wasn't really one of those teams in Kentucky. But that's all anybody wanted to talk about was the fact that he gets the young guys, they stay for a year and they go. Well, he has guys on his teams that came back a couple of times, that came back once or twice. And it's Duke who ends up having the freshmen, the one-and-dones of these 4 guys. 3 are going to be pros next year.
That's what I wanted to say.
Yeah.
If we had woken up this morning and said a team got all of its points in the second half from freshmen to win the championship, 3 of those freshmen are going to wind up being ones-and-dones, and the name of the team was Kentucky, people would be bemoaning that this is the ruination of college basketball. Instead, we are sitting and praising and all hailing Coach K for adapting to the time.
You're right.
It goes to show we sort of hail the ones that we like, and we crush the ones that we don't. Kentucky was never actually that all year long.
No, they weren't.
Those kids weren't all freshmen. I know that Karl Anthony Towns is a freshman, but Willie Cauley-Stein's been there forever. The Harrisons weren't freshmen. A lot of what they got came from people who weren't freshmen.
Right.
With Duke, with Coach K, it's magnificent adaptation
Look what
to the way the world is.
Look what he's doing over his decades of coaching, how he's able able to adapt to the times. What a fantastic coach.
Even he is.
Yes.
I mean, don't get me wrong. That's right. That's the correct way to look at it. Even he was saying it.
The ability to adapt is key in everything. And I think I've adapted well. And I really believe in the last decade, having the honor and the opportunity to coach our nation's team has helped me adapt even more. It's not like you're making sacrifices. Just, what does this group need from you? And then you try to give that. And as long as they're giving back, then it's a pretty cool thing.
It was one of the things in the pregame that they were talking about Coach K and comparing him to John Wooden. We're basically, the consensus seemed to be those two are up on a platform, and then there's everybody else. But Stephen A. was making an argument, that you could say Coach K is the best of all time. And again, they were getting to around the same. But that was the word used for Coach K, adapting to what he's had to adapt to over the years. And this is where we are. Even if you don't like what's going on in college basketball, oh well, you have to play within the rules. And if you can play within those guidelines and be successful, a la Duke last night, more power to you.
Coach K won his first title in 1991. He has now won another title in 2015. That 24-year span, easily the longest by any coach in history. I'd like to take it a step further, Hembo. I don't know if this is if information is easily available. They made the Final Four in 1986. That was the Bilas, Amaker. People, aside from Jay, don't remember it that way. That was the Johnny Dawkins, Tommy Amaker, that Mark Allery group. Bilas was a starter on that team. I kid because I love him. That was 86. That's 29 years. I wonder if that's the longest span, or if there's ever been any coach that made a Final Four more than 29. And they've been in Final Fours 29 years apart for Coach K. So when I say the thing that I said about Kentucky, I don't want anyone to get the impression that I'm saying Duke is ruining college basketball. No. I'm saying that it's just trying to expose the hypocrisy for what it is. You can't sit there and say Kentucky and Calipari are ruining college basketball and then hail Krzyzewski for winning with freshmen. You can't do it.
No, I agree.
But that said, that's not the story of the morning. The story of the morning is Duke winning the national championship, and on a night where they were better in the moments where the game gets decided, and that probably was the hardest thing to have projected.
The best of Mike and Mike.
Mike and Mike.
Guys, when you buy your clothes at DXL, you look good. But you feel like a rock star. So if you want to look and feel like you'll find all the brands you love, waist size 38 and up, all in one awesome store. DXL, you're looking good. Right now, select dress shirts are just $49.50 each when you buy 2 or more.
Mike and Mike.
Let's go to a guy who played for Coach K once upon a time and was there all last night and all through the college basketball season, and that's Jay Bilas. And Jay, good morning, first of all. And the first thought I had when I was watching last night was, when you get close late in the game, Wisconsin has been sensational all year long. We have numbers that show in clutch time they were actually better than Kentucky all year long, and they were better than Kentucky on Saturday night. Why was Duke better than Wisconsin in clutch time last night?
I think the defense that Duke played, Mike, was the difference. It was really remarkable to watch this team mature from a team that would outscore you into a team that would hold your offense down. And for a group, especially a group that young, to continue to get better to where they were a really proficient defensive team was remarkable. I thought, they switched a lot of screen exchanges, which they did in the first game. And I didn't think in the game that they played in December, in that Big Ten ACC Challenge game in the Kohl Center, that Wisconsin reacted well to the switching. And I thought that Wisconsin would do a much better job. And Duke's defense, I thought, took Wisconsin out of what they were trying to do, especially in the second half, in a better fashion than it did earlier in December. I mean, it was really incredible. I thought that when you get a switch and then a mismatch, when it happened in the Kentucky game, Wisconsin took advantage of it right away. and there was a switch in this game, in the title game, and Wisconsin wasn't able to take advantage of it. They became a team that dribbled in one place. The ball didn't move, didn't go from side to side, and then there was an attack of the mismatch like happened against Kentucky. I actually give Duke's defense the credit for the win rather than what they did offensively. It was just a remarkable transformation, or maybe it's the wrong word, maybe maturation of a team's defense from being suspect during parts of the year where he had to go zone. He played zone as a primary defense to a team that was one of the best defensive teams in the country. Really impressive.
Saw a little bit of that zone last night when the two Winslow and Okafor got themselves into some foul trouble. And I couldn't agree more. Wisconsin's movement in the first half without the ball was fantastic. Ability to get second chance points, and Duke really seemed to take that away on the second half, especially toward the end of the game. My question, and I know this is the way Wisconsin wants to play, coming off that high screen, they don't want to give a drive to the lane. So Kaminsky is not going out on Tyus Jones, but Jones is just knocking down shot after shot after shot coming off that high screen. At some point, Jay, don't you have to say, okay, well, I know this is what we normally do, but this kid is just draining him. We're going to have to come on and play him a little more.
You know, yeah, you might think that they would adjust, but Wisconsin plays a certain way, and they're going to continue to play that way. You know, they play loose on those. I guess Seth Greenberg calls it loose. I call it soft. And what happened, instead of being connected, so when your guy goes out to set a screen, Frank Kaminsky usually would be connected to the ball screener. And so you're right there on the screen. They play off. And so Kaminsky is really containing the penetration so that they can kind of wall up and you've got to shoot over. And most of the time you're worried about, Bo Ryan's worried about the penetration into the lane to get to the basket or to draw a defense and kick it. Instead, Jones was pulling up, and he was, I agree, it happened in the first game against Wisconsin where Jones had 22 points, and this one he had 23. And there was no adjustment made, but that's what Wisconsin has done traditionally throughout the year. That's what they did in the title game. That's the way they played those screens, and they were willing to live with it. And Jones wound up beating them on it.
Mike and Jay Bilas, maybe because it is the era in which we live that the things that happen after the game wind up getting talked about just as much as the things that happened during the game. What did you make of some of the things Bo Ryan said afterwards?
And I said it right after the press conference when we were on the air last night. I don't think it was his finest hour as a competitor, but that's a very difficult situation to be in. I was in it as a player, but I think when you're in those situations where during the week and I think during the entire tournament, Wisconsin, they were darlings in press conferences. Sometimes they were nightclub comics. I mean, it was fabulous. Their press conferences were fabulous. You have to be good after you lose. And I didn't think it was his best, but I've known Bo Ryan for a long time. I count him among the people I admire most in basketball, and I don't think he would count that as his finest hour. But he's a great guy that didn't perform his best, and I actually didn't think the players performed their best either. I thought Frank Kaminsky should have given more than a one-word answer one time, but those are difficult and emotional. And like I made a comment last night that, look, I'm 51 years old, and my team lost in the title game in 1986 when we were the number one overall seed. And, you give me another 20 years from now, and I think I'll be over it.
So at this point with Coach K, what other, if we can, adjectives can we add to his career?
Oh, you can't. I don't think. And look, I realize I'm biased. I played for him, and I've known him for all these years. He's been a not only a mentor but a friend for what seems to be a million years now. And we've used just about every adjective. I put him on the highest level of coaching along with Wooden, and I don't put anybody else up there. I don't put him ahead of Wooden, though, and I'm reluctant to do that. I don't know that you can. I don't know that that's a productive thing to do or a productive discussion to have. It's a fun discussion to have, but I don't think it's productive. And I'll tell you why. Like, he's adapted. He's done it in multiple sort of different eras. The game has changed immensely. But that was true of John Wooden, too. You know, John Wooden coached in a time where our nation was segregated, and he coached on Barksdale. Then he coached when he in the 60s, one of the most tumultuous times in our nation's history. He coached small teams and pressed 2-2-1, then adapted and had Alcindor and had Walton. Won 5 championships with Alcindor and Walton. Right? He also won 5 without them. And he had teams like there was Sidney Wicks and Curtis Rowe, and then his last team that was a team without the established stars when Walton was gone. One with Richard Washington and David Myers and Pete Turgovich and those guys. So he adapted too. And so I think to put those two together is an incredible honor for both of them. And I think, to me, it feels the right thing.
You put them together, you get 15 championships. That's what you get as of last night. Jay, travel safe. Thanks a million for everything. It's always so much fun and insightful and all the other things that you'd like a conversation to be. And we'll see you soon. Thanks, Jay.
Thanks, Jay.
Thanks, guys.
The best of Mike and Mike.
Mike and Mike.
As Mike Krzyzewski wins his 5th championship yesterday, and I think it is worth pointing out, for those who would mistake the way I'm phrasing this, I admire and commend Coach K for his adaptability.
Sure.
He's winning the way you have to win in 2015. I am merely pointing out that if John Calipari had won the championship with freshmen scoring 60 of his 68 points and 3 of them most likely going pro right after this, one and done, everyone would be saying this is the worst thing that ever happened in college basketball.
Completely agree. But Coach Duke gets the benefit of the doubt. But
Coach Duke, I said it earlier this morning too. We both did the same thing. It feels that way. He could change his name to Coach Duke.
But you're absolutely right. That's what would happen. And I'm not saying it as it shouldn't be that way as far as the one and dones. I don't think Coach Cal should get ripped for it. Certainly Coach K is not getting ripped for it. It's where we are right now. So I have absolutely, positively zero problem with it.
I had a couple of different things if you look at the numbers coming out of this game. What Duke did, the reason I didn't even consider picking them was before the tournament began, and look, a lot of people obviously did. I believe they were the 3rd most popular pick. Is they turned up their defense in the tournament to an almost ridiculous level. Before the NCAA tournament, they were allowing 65.5 points per game. During the tournament, they allowed 56 points per game. They allowed teams to shoot 43% this year. They only allowed 38% shooting during the tournament. They allowed teams to shoot 32% from 3 all year. They only allowed 28% in the tournament. Maybe look at it. That 38% field goal percentage they allowed during the NCAA tournament. You know, we were talking about Kentucky's defense being one of the greatest of all time this year, allowing about 35% shooting. Duke held you to 38% shooting. Their defense is the reason they won.
You know what was interesting is how much were we talking about that defense last night when Emil Jefferson was in and Okafor wasn't?
Yeah.
And we're talking about
Okafor is not a great defender.
And it showed when Frank pulled him away from the basket and made the move. He got by Okafor. Okafor's feet weren't quick enough, and he's reaching with his arms and getting the foul called. I mean, all of a sudden, when Duke was smaller, that was a tenacious defense. So you give them the credit for those that say Wisconsin wasn't playing their game. Well, there's a reason. Duke was taking them out of their game.
Okafor is a terrific player, and I have no doubt that he will be a good pro. But I do not think his draft stock was helped by this team, by his performance in the NCAA tournament, which is impossible to imagine when you consider he was their best player this year and they won the national championship. But I do think that some of the weaknesses of his game were to some degree exposed. Now, that said, does that mean he won't still go number 2? No, I think that's where he is now.
Agreed.
I think Karl Anthony Towns will go 1. I think he'll go 2, and then you can start picking names out of a hat, D'Angelo Russell, the kid Moutier, Justice Winslow, and I'm sure there are others who will sort of go in that next group. He'll go very high, and I still think he'll be a good player.
Yeah, he will.
But, I mean, you just heard Seth Greenberg, who knows more about this than the two of us put together, saying one of the things he's got to do is get himself in better shape.
For one of the first thing he said, he's got to get himself in great shape, and that's something to be said. And now, again, you're in the 6th game of the tournament. Everyone's going to be a little worn, but everybody's out there playing, and he was getting driven past.
All right, Mike, and a lot of the questions this morning being answered by people like Jay Bilas and others about why did this happen, why did Duke play better. Here's a little Jay Bilas on that.
Duke did a lot of intelligent things, but maybe the smartest thing they did was they started to put Frank Kaminsky in ball screen situations. So whoever Kaminsky was guarding came out and set a screen on Tyus Jones. Kaminsky played off instead of staying connected to his man and being right up there on the ball. He gave some space, played it soft, and then Jones was able to come off and knock shots down. In the game in Madison, Tyus Jones had 22 points. In the national championship game, he has 23. I mean, he was the star of both of those games, and especially down the stretch when Duke needed buckets, he was the guy that got some of the biggest ones.
And listen, you get to the championship game, and while you adjust things, you play your way, right? If you get to the title game, you say, if we play our game, you have confidence you're going to win, correct?
Generally in college sports, certainly.
So with Wisconsin, the way they play is just what Jay was talking about, and I talked about it earlier. When Jay's man is setting the high screen, or Frank's man is setting the high screen, and he doesn't play up on Jones coming across the screen. He plays back. They play back so the lane doesn't get driven. And Tyus Jones is popping either threes or right inside the arc for twos. He just kept hitting them, and they just kept playing off. I kept wondering, are they going to adjust? Now, you susceptible then to the pick and roll. You're going to have more help coming across, obviously, if they try and do the pick and roll. But, Tyus Jones is killing you on the jumpers coming around the screen. I would have thought they would have adjusted a bit, but Wisconsin was basically saying, this is the way we do it. Kind of like, okay, if they beat us, then they beat us. But this is the way we play our game.
Well, one of the numbers that if you had seen it coming, you wouldn't have expected it, is that Tyus Jones last night made 2 of his 3 threes. He was 7 of 13 from the floor and scored 23 points. Sam Decker, again, who had been so instrumental in Wisconsin's run, was 0 of 6 from 3 last night, and that clearly was something they were missing in a big way. We're Mike and Mike. We're presented by Progressive Insurance. Our college basketball buddy Dan Dakich will join us live in just a couple of minutes on the Subway Fresh Take Hotline with his take on what we saw last night. And in particular, I want to get his take on Mike Krzyzewski, on how much the adaptability is a part of his legacy. And I'd be curious to know. I mean, Krzyzewski is, for those who don't know, is a Bob Knight protege, played for Knight at Army, and made the speech when he went in the Hall of Fame and everything else. Does he, if Bob Knight was 20 years younger, do you think that he could have adapted the way Coach K has? I mean, Knight, he was never, at his stage of life, the way this thing was going, when it started going towards the one and dones, he was bemoaning it immediately, screaming and yelling, and hated it. If he was in a position where he was still really at sort of the apex of coaching, do you think he would have adjusted?
How could you not? If you're a team that can get those recruits, that can get a Towns, can get an Okafor, can get those guys to come to your school, are you really telling me, nah, not going to recruit them, don't want to play that way? I would be stunned. I would be stunned to think that Bob Knight would say that. I would be stunned to think that any coach would say that. I know Bo Ryan said it. They have guys that play through the system, and they don't really do that. But, was he ever in line to get an Okafor or a Towns? And if he was, are you kidding me? You're really telling me you're not taking them? If you're considering one and done, don't bother applying here? I would find that fascinating if a coach actually felt that way. If they had the chance to get someone like that and by their own choice said, no, we don't want to go down that road.
One kid who can't blame for this was Frank Kaminsky, who finished off a magnificent season and a magnificent career with another good night. He, in fact, is the 4th player since 1985 to have at least 20 points and at least 10 rebounds in both games of the Final Four. The others on the list are pretty impressive. It was Danny Manning in 88, Chris Webber in 93, Carmelo Anthony in 2003. By the way, Danny Manning wound up going number 1 in the draft, Chris Webber number 1 in the draft, Carmelo Anthony went 3 in the draft. I don't think Kaminsky is going to go that high, but he'll be drafted, and I think he'll be a good pro. I would agree with what Seth Greenberg's assessment was. I don't think he'll be a great pro, but I think he'll be a good pro.
He's one of those 7-footers that can play away from the basket. Gives you some versatility with being able to do that. So we'll say,
I think that at his size, he's going to have to put some weight on if he's going to be able to play defense on the NBA level. Because he's not chasing guys around the perimeter in the NBA. And he's not just standing there with his hands up playing defense the way he's taught to do in college against NBA big men. All right, very quickly, before we get to Dan Dakich here, something just off the subject of the game. You mentioned Tiger earlier.
Yes.
Would you take, right now, the old question used to be Tiger or the field. You asked me, would you take Tiger to make or miss the cut? I would definitely take to make the cut. Scott Van Pelt, of course, of SVP and Rosillo, and who anchors so much of our golf coverage at ESPN, addressed that same exact question. Here was his answer to the question, do you expect to see Tiger Woods playing on Sunday?
No. There's nothing that I got to trust my eyes, right? I mean, faith is the belief in the unseen. And this guy showed anybody that's paid attention in golf, and, you know, God knows that's what I did for the majority of the beginning of my professional life here. He created a faith and a belief. Well, I haven't seen it. I don't know that the guy can chip a ball right now. And if you can't chip and you can't putt at Augusta National, you can't play 4 rounds. You're not going to earn the right to play that. So, I mean, and if he's got it figured out in the time since we last saw him, then sure, he could go there and he could absolutely compete. But if you're asking me what would I bet on, what would give me the right to think that he'll play well enough over the course of 2 days to earn the right to play 2 more?
Everything he said is logical.
I agree.
I'm basing the fact that I think he'll make it on a gut feeling. My gut is always wrong.
I agree with Van Pelt. I don't think he makes a cut. I think what Tiger has lost, tell me if I'm wrong, is the benefit of the doubt anymore. Tiger's showing up for a tournament. He's ready to go. I mean, he hasn't shown it. And could he? Yes, he could. But if you were, again, going to really have to, you can do it with your gut. If you're going to have to, you think about it this way, lay down an amount of money that matters to you. You still going that route? You're saying 4 days. I know if I have to lay down an amount of money that matters to me, I'm saying he misses a cut.
Not me. If you're saying I have to bet an amount of money, I answered the question honestly before. Would I bet that he'd be in contention, meaning that you would wake up Sunday morning saying he has a real chance to win? No, I would not bet on that.
And
I would bet that he will play Saturday and Sunday.
And isn't it amazing where we are? He's ranked, 111th in the world, I believe, in that area?
No, he's barely played.
No, I know. I know.
Yeah.
The number's the number.
Yeah.
You know, I mean, so I agree with Scott.
When last seen that he kept chipping the ball and it kept rolling back to his feet.
There's nothing I've seen that would make me bet any kind of money that would.
Well, you become like I say, you become like the ultimate gambler lately. You're Sky Masterson. You're Nathan Detroit. You want to make a little bet on it?
Yeah,
let's make a little bet on it.
Let's make a bet on it.
Whether if he hits a shot in anger on Saturday, I win. If he does not, you win.
Yeah.
What are we betting? What are the stakes?
My God, I got to think about stakes with Rebecca.
We got a couple of days. They don't tee off till Thursday. We got a couple of days.
Won one against Darius at least.
We'll figure it out. For me. Meanwhile, another golfer made a point, a comment that I loved. And he's been one of my favorite players for a while, and now I love him even more. No. And you're going to hear that coming in about 20 minutes. But we got Dan Dakich ready to go. He'll join us in 1 minute on Mike and Mike after a word from Certified Financial. Did you know that some states require as much as 1,500 hours of training before licensing you to braid hair? But anyone off the street can legally call themselves a financial planner?
It's up to you to make sure you're working with a certified financial planner professional, just like you want your lawyer or doctor to have a professional degree. You want your financial advisor to have a CFP certification. CFP pros are required to put your interest above their own. They're vetted, means they're certified by the CFP board to uphold the highest standards. What can a CFP pro do for you? Well, all types of financial planning for just about any facet of your financial life, retirement, budgeting, estate planning, investment, taxes, insurance, all those things. If they're not a CFP pro, you just don't know. Don't leave your financial future to just anyone. Visit letsmakeaplan.org to find a CFP pro near you.
All right, Duke wins the championship, and Dan Dakich joins us now, our college basketball analyst. You hear him on 1070 The Fan if you're there in Indianapolis, where, of course, this year's Final Four was played. And he's good enough to spend a few minutes with us here early this morning. Dan, we always appreciate it. Let's just start with this. To you, what was the difference last night, particularly in that second half? Wisconsin opens up the advantage. A lot of people, myself included, thought, here we go. I expected Wisconsin to win before the game began, and when they opened that 9-point lead, I was sure they were going to win that game. How did Duke turn it around? Why'd they win?
Yeah, I've heard people talk about Grayson Allen, and they should. I heard Seth Greenberg made a great baseball analogy. Where the players made plays. And look, national championship, NCAA tournament, it is a make-or-miss tournament Tyus Jones made. And then the other thing, guys, I mean, defensively, a lot of people talking about what Duke was able to do to Sam Decker. Duke did this something that
Maryland was able to do early in the year to beat Wisconsin, and that's arrive on the catch. Like, Wisconsin is one of the great teams at holding the ball for a 2 count, let something happen, finding their teammate. You can't do it when you rush. And every time that ball was flung, a Duke guy was whacked right there on the Wisconsin guy, whether it was Decker or Koenig or whoever. And that makes it really difficult for Wisconsin. They don't handle – when you can guard Wisconsin one-on-one and you don't have to help, it really limits what Wisconsin can do differently. And I thought throughout the course of the last 10 minutes of the second half, Duke did to Wisconsin what Duke did to Michigan State. They were able to guard their own, and I thought that was the difference in the game.
It certainly seemed like that. If you were on the floor coaching, what would have been your answer to Wisconsin? If Wisconsin, all of a sudden, they were getting defended better, how should they have reacted to that?
Well, against really good defensive teams, you have to drive right at them. You can't go east and west. And sometimes a guy gets in a great stance, and you know he's quicker than you, and you're just there to protect the ball. That's why Bronson Koenig was good throughout the stretch. He just took the ball right at the defense. You know, and I know Coach K said this, and I know you guys said this, but Emil Jefferson was big. He was able to give some time. He was able to give some minutes. And then, you know, let's credit Okafor a little bit. You're talking about a freshman who wasn't playing well. And the thing about not playing well now is in the deep, deep recesses of players' minds, they know they're being killed publicly. They know it. You know, Twitter is all over. They know more now than ever the ramifications of that. And the kid sat on the bench for a little bit, and he came back in, and he dominated things. So, you know, you can say on the court, hey, we're going to do this, we're going to do that. But I thought Duke, because of Quinn Cook leading the charge, had a great mentality, obviously, for victory, and I thought it was shown by Okafor how he came back into the game and showed what he's all about.
Mike Dan Dakich is with us. I find it interesting that Mike Krzyzewski, of all people, wins a championship in a game in which freshmen score all but 8 points for his team and all of their scoring in the second half. I just would love to open up the floor to you on that thought, Dan. What does that say about him? What does it say about where we are in the sport right now?
Yeah, I heard you guys talking about Calipari and how he would have been perceived had that been Kentucky. But, you know, Mike Krzyzewski, I think, by the way he's ran his program, has earned the benefit of the doubt. You know, you look back at John and you look at Memphis and you look at UMass and you say to yourself, all right, it wasn't on him, but still it's what happened to his program. And I think the public in general doesn't care what happened. You know, they're going to read the NCAA manual or the NCAA report. They're going to know the two programs the guy was with vacated titles. Coach K is seen as royalty. Coach K, because of the way he's run his program, the way he's handled himself, is seen a lot different. And, you know, the world isn't fair all the time, but that's the way it is. And you get what you deserve in a lot of cases. So, you know, I think that Duke did what Duke has always done, which is recruit great players that fit Duke academically, that fit Duke socially, that Coach K adapts to. And, you know, Mike, I got to say, man, Quinn Cook to me epitomizes everything you want in a player. You know, he was a senior. He's a guy who's only going to play in the NBA as a point guard. Well, this year they asked him, hey, move over. We got this kid from Apple Valley, Minnesota coming in. And not only does he do it, but he does it with tremendous heart. So we can talk about the freshmen, but I honestly believe this. I think you'll see in the next coming days Coach K throw bouquets and tributes to Quinn Cook and what he did. He's like John Shire, man. He didn't care about anything but winning, and he got it done. He
had 6 points last night. Mike and Dan Dakich, and most people who know you are aware of your long-standing, you know, partnership affiliation with Bob Knight, which was Coach K's mentor. So I'd just be curious your opinion on this. Bob Knight's last year at Texas Tech was the third year of the quote-unquote one-and-done rule. And he then came and worked with us here at ESPN for years, and he bemoaned that thing. He would, even when you didn't ask him about it, he would yell and scream about how he thought that the one-and-done rule was killing college basketball. I know I'm just asking you to guess. If he was 20 years younger, do you think he would have adapted to this the way Krzyzewski has?
Yeah, because for a long time, Coach Knight adapted really well. Like, people don't understand that, you know, that 76 team, it wasn't Prop 48, but he had two guys there, Scott May and Bobby Wilkerson, that didn't play as freshmen. and didn't play because basically think of the Prop 48 rule. You sit out a year because of academic. But he was the first guy I ever heard to do that. So, yeah, I do. Look, the one and done rule, everybody wants to coach great players. And anybody, Bo Ryan, I know he said about the Rena player, but you're telling me he wouldn't take Okafor? You're telling me he wouldn't take Karl Anthony Towns? I mean, if that's true, then good for him. But everybody wants those guys. There's no hiding that. But Coach K and others, obviously Calipari, they get them because of they're great recruiters. They work at it. So, yeah, I don't think there's any doubt, Mike, that Coach Knight would have adapted to it. And, you can scream about rules all you want, and that makes you end up being a commentator, not a coach. So, that's a rule that, hey, it's killing college basketball. I'm going to tell you something. College basketball didn't look dead to me. It was the best environment that I've ever been to in a domed or a big stadium Final Four. And credit Wisconsin people, Mike. You lived in Evanston. You know those people are crazy, enthusiastic, and passionate. Man, they took over Indy last night in Kentucky basketball. They were fantastic, even in the loss. So
you can only have one winner out of the 68 teams, and that's Duke. Kentucky, we know what they were striving for when they entered the tournament undefeated, got within 2 games. We know what Wisconsin, even getting by Kentucky, Frank came back not just to beat Kentucky, but to win a title. They fall short. So for Kentucky and Wisconsin, if you could give a sentence to wrap up both their seasons on what they should feel about their seasons, what would it be?
Wisconsin, absolutely awesome. You lost get over it. You had a great time as teammates. You had a great time with your fans. This is a team that really connected. To Kentucky, hey, it's just unfortunate your season is done at the University of Kentucky because every other school in the country would be happy as hell with that season. So, think about what you did well, think about the accomplishments, the legendary accomplishments, and move on and don't worry about it.
Dan Dakich again. You'll hear him on 1070 The Fan for those of you in Indianapolis, and you see him all over ESPN all the time. Dan, thanks a million. We'll check in with you again soon.
Thank you, guys.
That's Dan Dakich with us on Mike and Mike. He says that Knight would have. Yeah, I mean,
how could you not? How could you not? If you're coaching a major program,
I guess my point is then you wouldn't be able to say the things that he said. He used to say this is a mockery, it's a sham, these kids aren't students, they don't have to go to school.
He cannot like it. I'm sure there's probably part of Coach K that may not like it, that may not like the system as it's set up. You can feel that way, but still say, okay, this is the system that's set up. I'm not overly fond of it, but these are the rules. Okay, then, come on in, fellas. Do your one and done here with me. We'll win a championship.
I could say this. Coach K was on CBS this morning, and I follow them on Twitter. Here are some quotes from him. We have to adapt to what the NBA is doing. It's not our responsibility. The Renta thing is kind of harsh, referring to what Bo Ryan said. He said, we should let players join the NBA straight out of high school, though he'd like to see them at Duke at least 2 years. And then he finally said, I've got 4 great freshmen, exactly what Dan Dakich predicted. I have 4 great freshmen. They're led by a great senior in Quinn Cook. He set the table for these kids.
So again, you cannot agree with the rule, which I think a lot of coaches don't, about the one and done, but that doesn't mean you're not going to take the guys. You're not going to say, I disagree with this rule and I'll have nothing to do with it. I'll only take guys that are going to be there for 3 years. It's a joke. That wouldn't happen.
He actually just said our MVP for this team is Quinn Cook.
Yeah.
On CBS. That's exactly what Dan Dakich said he was going to say.
The best of Mike and Mike.
Here's Dick Vitale with us on the Subway Fresh Take Hotline. Dick, we're talking about, of all people, Mike Krzyzewski, and his previous 4 championship wins in the title games. Freshmen had scored a combined 23 points for him. Last night, his freshmen scored 60 points out of 68. What does it say about Krzyzewski, and what does it say about where the game is right now, that that's the way he wins his 5th title last night?
Well, I think, Mike, what it simply says is that he's adjusted to the times. He's gone and gotten the one-and-done players, the Jabari Parkers, and now certainly Okafor and Winslow and company, and the freshmen responded. Not only did they respond, we did the game, Dan and I, Schumann on ESPN International, the incredible intensity, the emotion, the passion that we witnessed in front of us was unreal. And it really was set the stage when the score was 48-39 and they were down 9. And he makes a substitution. He calls a big timeout. And in that timeout, Grayson Allen steps on the floor. And as I said in the telecast, a star was born. A star was born. There is no doubt in my mind, Mike, he's going to be a prolific scorer at Duke. He came in and he was brilliant. His effort, his energy, his ability to attack, he played like a star. He wanted the ball, and it rubbed off on his teammates. And then Tyus Jones took over, and he's been big in big moments all year. And, he came in with Okafor, and he's been sort of in his shadow. And obviously Okafor is the focal point, the big, strong inside player. But Tyus Jones put a show on. Do you realize this? Second half, all 37 points scored. All. Not 80%, 90%. Every point was scored by freshmen.
Yep. And even in the under 5 minutes clutch time, it was 12-4. They outscored Wisconsin. Tyus Jones and Okafor, the two freshmen, had those 12 points. So the freshmen getting it done. So that was offensively because they were down 9 and they came back and scored and took the lead and obviously won. But to do that, they also had to play some defense, or Wisconsin had to go cold on offense. Which was it? How did that happen?
Well, I think it was a great defensive effort to Duke. They've been that way through the entire tournament. I mean, going into that game, they were only giving up 55 points a game. That's unheard of. That was so much better, the defensive effort, than what they played with during the course of the year. But really, we forget about this. 2 big plays by Okafor when he came back on the floor and he had the 4 fouls. He made 2 big plays. One where Frank Kaminsky, I was telling Reese Davis, we were doing raps for SportsCenter, he made a play where he was being fouled really intentionally by Kaminsky to get him to the free throw line because he's a nightmare on the free throw line. But he had the upper body strength to take that and score, and he converted and got a deuce. He missed the free throw, but he got a big basket, and then he got a big offensive rebound as well. Just a brilliant performance against a quality team. I mean, they beat a team that was super. I mean, that team beat North Carolina. That team beat Arizona quality. Wisconsin beat Kentucky, spoiled their dream of a perfect season, and here it is, Duke stands tall. Mike, I think this one might rank as one of the most special of his 5, because really, I don't think anybody thought when they lost to Miami at home, got blown out, lost to North Carolina State, that this team would be standing tall as a national champ.
Mike and Dickie is right with Duke's defense. In the tournament, they allowed 56 points a game. They allowed teams to shoot 38% from the floor and only 28% from 3. So they turned up the defensive intensity. Part of that, of course, on Sam Decker last night, who had made himself into a star in this tournament run. 0 for 6 from 3 last night. He really struggled. Dickie V, did you think there was something that Duke did against him defensively that was effective, or did he just have a bad night?
I think a combination of both. I really think that they challenged him big time. He didn't really get great, what I would call open looks. If I thought one thing for Wisconsin, I was telling Andy North last night, we were at the airport together, and Andy, obviously a big Wisconsin guy, and wasn't really thrilled, obviously. He loves his Wisconsin Badgers. But as we were talking, I told Andy, and I really felt this way, I said it in a telecast, I think Frank Kaminsky is too unselfish. Too unselfish. I thought he should have been more assertive on the offensive end and want to score even more, because they didn't have an answer for him. I believe he could have scored a lot more. He's a terrific player, inside, outside player, and a guy who certainly deserves being Player of the Year. And I'll tell you this, Bo Ryan deserves to be in the Hall of Fame. What he's done at Wisconsin and what he did at Wisconsin-Platteville, they have nothing to be ashamed of. They lost to a team that just was better at the end of the game. They never, ever folded. I think a lot of people thought foul trouble, down 9, it was over. The Dukies would be put away, but that's a reflection of the coach. Now I'm going to ask you guys. I am getting all kinds of tweets, man, all kinds of tweets. People, obviously many disagree with what I said. I said on SportsCenter with Reese Davis. Reese agreed with me. I said, knowing the eras we're in today, different era, you got to win more games. You got to play. They put great teams from the East out in the West. They didn't do that in the early era. And I'm not taking anything. I love Coach Wooden. I was the first recipient of the Pyramid of Success Award that they give out. And I'm telling you, I have great respect and admiration. But when I look at the total record the total track record and look at the one and done today, the balance, the intensity, the many more better teams, I firmly believe, as I said in the air, Mike Krzyzewski is the greatest coach ever to coach in college basketball. Factor in the 5 titles. He has more wins than any coach in the history of the game, 1,018. He has more wins in tournament action than any coach. Factor in the USA Olympic team, the whole bit. He is the best of the best. Agree or disagree?
Well, here's the thing. I don't want to cop out of it, but I would honestly say that you're a better judge of that than we are, Dickie V. You tell me. How much harder, how do you quantify how much harder it is to win a championship today than it was when Wooden was winning? You went through it, I get it. There's more teams in the tournament now, all the rest of that. There's more talent. It's more spread out. There are more good basketball players in the world than there were when John Wooden was coaching. Just how much harder is it to win? Wooden won 10, Coach K has won 5. That's a pretty big disparity. So just how much harder is it to win now than it was then?
Well, see, we're not just looking at the total, just the national titles. You got to factor in he has equal Final Four trips. He has many more wins in tournament action and also total career wins. I think it's much harder today. First of all, you got to win 6 games. In those days, you didn't have to. You have 32 teams in the tournament. You win 1 round, you're in the Sweet 16. I want people to understand this, and it really bothers me because people on Twitter, they just don't listen to everything you say. I have great admiration for Coach Wooden. What he did was amazing, absolutely amazing. I don't care what era it is, but you know, comparing it today with what Coach K's had to face at Duke with the one and done as well, all the balance, as you said, many more players from internationally all over the world coming here to play, and the coaching has gotten so much better. I just think what he has done, total resume, not just about national titles, and that's what Reese felt and I felt, and that's just our opinion. We may not be right. I respect those that feel their way, but gee whiz, respect our views as well.
No, absolutely. No, Dickie V, because Twitter is such a respectful place.
You're right about that.
People just
right about that.
They just love to have calm, rational.
Only for you guys would I have 2.5 hours sleep, get in at 5:30, plane had a little problem, get in, but I said for Mike and Mike, I will do it because they're PT peers, they're superstars. Guys, I can't tell you how I am flying high. It was an honor. I sent a text out to our boss, John Wack. I said, let me tell you, I can't thank you enough for allowing me to sit at courtside and do that game. It'll be a memory that I'll take with me to my grave. That is absolutely, I can't tell you, feeling the electricity, the enthusiasm, the energy, the passion to be so close. There was a play that Grayson Allen, he dove for a loose ball in front of us, and you could feel the pain on his face trying to get that ball, and to sit there, Dan and I looked at each other in just amazement. And I'll tell you this, Dan Schumann is great to work with. The guy's a pro.
Dickie V, go get some breakfast at the Broken Egg. It was a wonderful season. Thank you very much, as always, for all the insight and all the laughs. We'll talk to you again soon. Thanks.
Guys, you're terrific, man. Love you and wish you the best. Just tell people I need help with my Dick Vitale gala. I need help raising money for kids. Just go to DickVitaleOnline.com. Help me raise dollars to help kids battling cancer.
Nobody does more than Dick Vitale does with the V Foundation.
The best of Mike and Mike.
Mike and Mike.
Welcome to my house. Play that music too loud. Show me what you do now. We don't have to go out.
Oh, yeah. Flo Rida is in the house. This is My House. It's available on iTunes right now, and he is here with some winners from an ESPN.com bracket challenge who won the chance to accompany him to a trip all over ESPN's campus today. Again, Flo Rida's new EP is available today, including that song on iTunes right now. Good to see you again. How are you?
Oh, man, you know you guys like family. This is like my house, literally.
It is. You're in every single way.
Last time we saw you on South Beach when Miami was in the finals, I got asked, so hearing you sing that, so I love to sing, and I'll sing any song.
You sing fairly well.
I'll try and sing it all the time, but I've never dropped an album. Is that we still say it today? Drop an album?
Yeah, drop an album. Yeah, definitely.
Okay, all right. When you're in your car and you hear your song come on the radio, do you sing it?
Definitely
along with you?
Along with, my crew. A lot of times, they want to play the background singers and everything. So, I'm always intrigued. Now, anytime I make a song, I make sure it's something that I love.
And you'll sing along to it in the
Definitely singing along, just like I did just now.
Yeah,
Welcome to my house.
The bad part is when I work out to all of your music all the time, and the kids tell me, but I don't realize it. I got the earbuds in, and then I'm rapping along with you as you're going, like the really fast stuff, like Good Feeling or I Cry or some of those where you get going real fast, and I'm just butchering the words.
You have to be horrible.
Obliterating the lyrics.
And everybody's listening to that.
And I don't realize that everyone can hear me.
Yeah.
So you've caused me no small embarrassment in my own home.
It's great to work out too, definitely.
Speaking of embarrassing, you had a tough time.
Oh man, please don't beat me down.
He did that to you.
The brackets. I had a bet. Listen, I wasn't a whole lot better than you were. Your Final Four was along with Kentucky. You had Baylor, Villanova, and Iowa State. Baylor and Iowa State go out the first day. Villanova goes out on that Saturday, the first round. Particularly the Baylor game. I don't know if you were watching it when it happened. That's a game they're winning by 10 points. It's like 2 minutes left. What's it like for you when you watch the last minutes of these games and the teams that you've picked are going down?
Oh man, I was actually at my studio, and I have a basketball court there. As soon as we were going down, I just went out and shot some shots of myself, man. I tried to inspire myself to feel good. I blame it on my team because we sat down in my conference room and we actually planned this whole thing out, and I failed.
I'd like to someday say that in my studio I have a basketball court.
You have a basketball court at your studio.
Yes, that's my first love, basketball, so I definitely have to have that.
So I do always ask that. I probably asked you if you weren't doing what you do, basketball would be, if you could be a star in sports, it would be basketball.
You haven't seen my IG? I'm still dunking.
Are you really?
Yeah.
With a trampoline or no?
No trampoline.
He's got a basketball court at his studio.
That's impressive.
I'm assuming nowhere is the word Nerf involved in this.
At all.
That's Flo Rida. Let me ask you quickly about some of the things that are going on down there in Miami. Again, we mentioned the last time that we met you, the Heat are there in the finals, and then obviously LeBron goes. So when that happens, I'm fascinated by that. I said at the time, the fans of Miami, while I understand the disappointment, should love LeBron forever. He went down there, he gave you 4 unbelievable years, 4 trips to the finals, 2 championships, memories to last a lifetime, and then he goes home. So give me the sense of your feelings about it at the time and how you feel about it now, and how most of the people you know down there who are fans in Miami react to LeBron.
Well, it kind of felt unreal because, we were just feeling like we had the perfect squad. You get a couple of rings. And then, I wake up one morning and my guys are telling me I get the wrong ring. Man, LeBron, I think he's going to leave and go back home. I'm like, nah, this is not going to happen. But, yeah, definitely I think the fact that, it was crazy for him leaving Cleveland and seeing the reaction he got from his fans. And I think, what he's doing now is just amazing. And my hat goes off to him. But at the time, man, we were definitely upset.
Were you surprised? Did you think he was going to
I didn't think he was going to leave because I think we had an amazing squad. Amazing squad.
Their chances to win there, their chances to win now. The Chris Bosh situation is unfortunate. Have you I know you're friendly with the guys on the team. Have you had a chance to talk to him since he, with the blood clot situation and everything else, everyone rooting for the best?
Definitely, definitely he's in my prayers and everything, but I haven't got a chance to speak to him. But, he's a great player. I look forward to him coming back next season and doing his thing. Fortunately, my guys are not doing too well.
You think it's going to be a struggle for a while for him now? To get back, they got spoiled basically. With LeBron there.
I don't think it's going to be a struggle. Having my man Whitehead, he's definitely doing amazing. Besides, his injury, I think, we should come back and do fortunately well next year.
Now, right after the trade deadline, when they got Dragic, everyone was saying, watch out for this team. This could be the team. Then obviously Bosh goes down, and we'll see what winds up happening. Flo
like you said, he's definitely a true point guard, so I look forward to us having a great team.
If Bosh comes back healthy, they'll be good next year. They're maybe not what they were with LeBron, but good. My House is available at iTunes now, and it's available. You can download the brand new one from Flo Rida. But I have to ask you this, because you watch all the NBA, right?
Yes.
Obviously, you're sitting and you're watching the telecast. You can't miss.
Oh, man, you know what? A lot of times I'm about to rush out the house, and this song comes on in my living room, and I'm just dancing, me and my nephews. It's crazy, man. I'm definitely a fan of this record, and shout out to everybody, Fast and Furious, man, having this a part of their film, as well as you guys, embracing this. It's just going down for real. Hey, y'all know what it is.
We all know what it is.
Mike and Mike, baby.
I'm glad. You know what? I'm glad, Greeny, you're not trying to sound cool.
I'm not. Listen,
because that's normally what he does when we're around someone cool. He tries to sound cool.
No, but I check it out, and you definitely have your swag up.
I've got my swag way.
Yeah.
no.
This is your house.
This is my house.
Yeah.
I am the emperor of Swag Nation. Let me ask you this.
See, because then he goes there.
But that's the thing
Now you turn it up.
The music business, it seems to me, has changed so much. I mean, from a time when people would be releasing albums and then going on tour. We were just talking to Darius Rucker about this, how there used to be a time where you would go on tour to promote your record. Now there are so many different ways that you get your stuff out there, and that's a huge one. TV, the marriage, for lack of a better word, of the NBA and hip-hop music, I think has done wonders to elevate both, and you've obviously been right in the middle of all of that.
Definitely, perfect combination. The fact that, like I say, my first love was basketball, and then a lot of times you have some of the NBA players, they love, rap music, and a lot of them, they definitely want to be rappers as well, so it goes hand in hand.
Who can really rap? Like, we've heard Shaq rap a million times. He freestyles a little, which I think is the greatest skill in the world.
We know he can't rap.
He can rap a little. I think freestyling is the most ridiculous skill in the world. I don't know how in the world people do it.
And hats off to everyone who freestyle. I really don't. But as far as rappers, my man Udonis Haslam of the Miami Heat, he came to the studio and he does his thing. He does
really?
His thing. Yeah.
I've always said athletes all want to be entertainers. All want to, including when I was an athlete way back when. I always wanted to be a singer.
In some cases, they are both. Flo Rida all morning long here again.
The good times.
Got a quick thought from you on Duke winning the championship last night. Mike Krzyzewski has done it now for all these years over. Do you like Duke or not? Do you root for them? It seems to me they're a pretty polarizing team. People either love them or they hate them.
I'm all about the champs, definitely. Like I said, fortunately, my team didn't win, but, hats off to them, man. Definitely.
Was your team Kentucky?
Yeah.
Because you picked them, or is that generally your team?
I picked them because I'm definitely, me, I go for all the home teams.
But that being said, say you didn't pick them, you didn't have that horse in the race. Would you have wanted to watch this tournament to see them go 40-0 or see someone knock them off, stop them from going 40-0?
Definitely. I'm all about competition. So, I definitely didn't want to see no one knock them off at all.
He is Flo Rida, the new one, My House, and it's an EP, right? It's not just that song, but it's an EP.
It's an EP. Shout out to everyone who's on the album. My man Stage the Gemini, who's on there. My man Chris Brown. Shout out to Robin Thicke, who's on there. The producers, my man Frankie. Shout out to SoFly Nias, who definitely did their thing on the album. Look forward to this thing doing amazing. Going down for real. It's platinum, and on its way to double platinum. So, thanks to you guys, man.
And by the way, so we talked about athletes and all that stuff. You look great. I was just said down, I never met you. We met you down in South Beach. And by the way, I love all the stuff you do for Little League football as well. But you look good. You look like an athlete.
You know what? I have to say, shout out to my man Floyd Mayweather. Definitely going for him as far as the fight goes.
You gonna win the fight?
Yeah, I just got off the phone with him last night and everything, training hard. And, it was one time I got a chance to go and see him train. And I thought I was training hard because I was doing a boxing regimen. If you looked at the Good Feeling video, you'll see some of, my boxing skills in there. But after going and seeing him train, it's like this guy's a machine. So I'm always inspired. And I actually have a workout program right now, so that's why I'm really fit. So you can check that out. It's called Flow Fit. Go to flowfit.com.
Like that. He talked to Mayweather last night. I called him. He didn't answer.
Again, My House is available on iTunes right now.
Yes.
Flo Rida will be all over ESPN all day. It's great to see you again. Thanks for coming by.
Thank you, family.
This has been the best of Mike and Mike on ESPN Radio Pod Center. To hear more from Mike and Mike, log on to ESPNradio.com and become an ESPN Radio Insider.
The best of Mike and Mike.
Major League Baseball on ESPN Radio. Last season, the Pirates reached the postseason for the second consecutive season, only to be sent home early after losing the wild card. Will they return for the third straight year? This weekend they face the Cubs, who have plans to make their first postseason berth since 2008. The Cubs and Pirates. The pregame at 3 Eastern, first pitch at 4. Saturday on ESPN Radio and the new ESPN app.
Hey, Mike Golic here, and I certainly love to fish. And when my dad took me out fishing for the first time when I was 6 and I caught that bluegill, I was so proud. Such a great memory, an experience everybody should have.
Whether it's the first of the day or first of a lifetime, TakeMeFishing.org wants you to get out and make your first catch. And if you show them using hashtag #FirstCatchSweeps, you can win an Evinrude E-Tech G2 powered Ranger bass boat. Learn more at TakeMeFishing.org.
No purchase necessary. 48 U.S. and D.C. 18 and older. Ends 5/25/15. Void in Alaska, Hawaii, and where prohibited. See site for rules.
Two of baseball's best go head-to-head in interleague action when the Tigers head to St. Louis to face the Cardinals. The pregame at 7 Eastern, first pitch at 8, Sunday on ESPN and ESPN Radio.